Part 2, Strange Sounds. The next morning, Mary woke up early to prepare breakfast for the whole family. There is indeed no scene as beautiful as the sunrise on the sea. Open the glass curtains in the living room. At 6 o'clock in the morning, the sun peeked over the horizon. The iridescent sea surface reflects the first rays of the new day, mingling with the murmuring sound of ocean waves. The salty air flows into the house with the wind, making people feel comfortable. The villa is truly a dream for those who know how to enjoy it. Mary looked at the sea to enjoy peaceful moments. Suddenly, she wondered. Why is this beautiful villa without a buyer for so many years? She only heard her husband say that the old family of this villa had moved to settle abroad, so they sold it cheaply. She just renovated and remodeled this villa about a month ago. The couple outsourced all the renovation work to a home repairman. Initially, she also planned to hire workers nearby, but perhaps because it is currently the construction season, it isn't easy to find a group of workers to work here. James himself also had to ask others to help find workers from other places. Although it is halfway up the mountain, 5 or 6 smaller villas are around it. James and his wife did not have time to visit each house. The only thing is that yesterday at the housewarming, James and Mary also came to invite, but no one came. They all politely refused, saying that because it was dark, it was difficult to move, or their children were still young, they couldn't participate. Originally a hospitable Houstonian, but now the neighbors were not enthusiastic, so James felt a bit uncomfortable, but Mary comforted him. "We just bought this house, and we're not here often, so it's understandable that they're like that." Mary had finished preparing the food, but she looked at the clock and it was only 6 a.m. So she went out to the garden behind the house to clean. While cleaning, she saw that on the other side, there was also a sister drying clothes. Mary raised her hand to greet, but the woman just stood staring at her without responding. Suddenly, the woman carried a basin of clothes and ran into the house. The seaside is already bright, but behind this house is a yard located close to the mountainside, so the air is still filled with the humidity of the mountains and forests. The light hadn't yet reached, so even though it was 6 a.m., the backyard was still foggy in the early morning. Mary doesn't understand why people around here are so rude. She continued to sweep the leaves scattered all over the yard. Suddenly, she felt like someone was looking at her from behind. The uncomfortable feeling like someone is standing there staring, but not speaking. Turning around, Mary saw nothing but the window curtains gently swaying with the wind. About to go back to sweep the yard again, Mary saw a shadow passing by the kitchen window. She thought to herself that her parents were awake, so she quickly put down the broom and ran into the kitchen to bring breakfast to the table. But when I entered the house, I didn't see anyone. Mary opened the door and looked into the room to see James was still sleeping. By the way, Mary woke James up. "James, wake up. It's almost 7 o'clock. Get up and have breakfast. I'm done cooking." James opened his eyes and looked at his wife, smiling lovingly. Gently pulling his wife's hand, James closed his eyes and continued to sleep. Mary just gave her husband's butt a loud slap. Because of the pain, James woke up startled and mumbled. "Ouch! Why are you hitting me so hard? Are our parents awake yet?" Mary replied, "I don't know, but maybe our parents are already awake. I just saw a shadow of someone walking in the kitchen. It was probably our mother coming down, but she didn't see anyone, so she went back upstairs. Go brush your teeth, wash your face, then go up and tell your parents to come down for breakfast. I'll reheat the food so it's hot." James crawled up, looked at his wife, then smiled again. Mary saw her husband's strange attitude, raised her hand to threaten, and then went to the kitchen. Before James even went upstairs to wake up his parents, they were already coming down from upstairs. James' father's voice rang out. "This house is cool. When I open the windows in the morning, the fresh air is refreshing. Much better than Chicago City, where early in the morning the car horns are loud, and when you open the door, you can sometimes inhale a pound of dust. James's mother teased her husband. "You slept well. It's just me who couldn't sleep all night. I woke up early in the morning, but I was afraid of waking up my children, so I stayed in the room." Hearing that, Mary laughed lightly. Her parents were old, but they were always happy like young people. James had finished brushing his teeth and washing his face. Seeing his parents coming down, James ran to pull out a chair for his parents to sit. After that, he went to the kitchen to help his wife bring food. Coming closer, James reached out and pinched his wife's butt, making Mary jump. She turned to scold her husband. "What are you doing? Our parents are sitting there and you still dare. Have you woken up our child yet?" James smiled slyly. "Our son is sitting with his grandparents over there. I'm just waiting for my beloved wife." "Waiting for you? What are you doing?" "Doing what you did for me early this morning. I was sleeping soundly and you were groping me and I liked it so much that couldn't stand it." Mary carried a plate of bacon while scolding her husband. "You crazy person, what did I do this morning? I just got up early to prepare food, and then sweep the yard. I don't have time to grope you." What a paranoia. Seeing his wife like that, James teased her even more. "Don't dare to admit it. My wife is indeed a bit. It. Coming to the breakfast table, James didn't dare to tease her anymore. Mary didn't even bother to talk to him. She thought her husband was teasing him too much today, which made her feel uncomfortable. Eating breakfast in this poetic, dreamlike setting makes everyone happy. Laughter echoed throughout the house. Seeing his parents admiring the beautiful house, James also felt proud. Suddenly there was the sound of running water in the sink, James' mother reminded. "Oh my God! Mary, did you forget to turn off the water?" Hearing her mother's reminder, Mary quickly stood up and tried to run to the kitchen to turn off the water, but it was clear that she had not turned on the water to wash food or dishes. Coming to the kitchen, suddenly there was no running water at all. Mary went into the living room and told her mother. "Mom must have heard wrong. When I went in, I didn't see any faucets running water." James's mother looked at her daughter-in-law in surprise. "Oh great, the sound of water flowing like that, but you still say it doesn't exist." "I'm old but I'm not hard of hearing," Father James immediately said. "Yes, that's right, I also heard the sound of water pouring into the sink. But it's okay if it's not like that. When breakfast is over, can you take Mom and Dad to the airport? I have to go home, there's no one looking after the house outside. And your mother can't sleep here either." Mary was silent, she didn't say another word. But in her mind, she still wondered why she hadn't used water that she forgot to turn off the valve. But the sound of running water just now was real, everyone heard it. The neighbor's house is dozens of meters away. Sighing, she thought to herself. What a strange day. James realized that his father wanted to go home, so he quickly persuaded his parents to stay a few more days. But James's father's personality is that when he decides on something, he will do it right away. Even if someone begs, he won't change. At 10 a.m., James drove his parents to the airport. Mary and her son went to the supermarket to buy some things. As soon as James left the house, Mary took her motorbike to take her son away. When she got to the gate, Mary saw the woman, who was drying clothes early in the morning, standing by the fence of that house, staring at her. The woman stood there, looking at Mary and her son, but didn't say hello. Seeing that person's strange behavior, Mary quickly put a hat on her child and then got on the motorbike. She followed the flat asphalt road down to the foot of the mountain. In Mary's mind, she suddenly had a bad premonition. Why was that woman so impolite? Mary is an active young woman, she often goes online to read newspapers and look for news. That's why when she saw that strange woman, scary thoughts appeared in her mind. There's the kidnapping of children for organs, there's murder and robbery, there's the massacre of entire families. Such thoughts made Mary shiver. The road down to the foot of the mountain to the main road was about 30 meters away. Those terrifying thoughts made Mary unable to concentrate on driving. The person who was down the road going up the mountain was a young girl wearing a bright red dress. Mary almost crashed into that girl. Luckily the road was not very steep, so Mary braked in time. The girl in the red dress slowly retreated to the side of the road. Mary stopped the car and quickly said, "Sorry, I lost my concentration. Also here was the first time I rode down there by myself. Are you okay?" The girl looked at Mary, smiled, and answered, "I'm fine, you're the one who just bought the white villa up there, right?" Mary smiled back at the girl, then answered, "That's right, I just started moving there yesterday." "But how do you know?" The girl pushed her long hair aside, then looked at Mary's son and said, "Everyone around here knows who bought that villa. That villa is very famous here. Don't you know? I also live nearby. There hasn't been a day that I haven't seen you and your husband. I was there all the time before." Mary was about to ask a few more questions, but her son, Long, called out, "Go. Mom." The little boy begged her mother to take her away. It was almost noon, so Mary quickly greeted the girl. "I'm sorry, my son likes to go to the supermarket. If you're free someday, invite you over to my house to play, then we can continue talking." The girl looked at Long and smiled softly. "The boy is so pretty, isn't he?" Having finished speaking, the girl continued to go up. The road from here to there must have been about 500 meters, yet she was walking and wearing a long skirt. The people here are indeed really strange. Just as she finished thinking, Mary heard the sound of a motorbike coming from above. Looking back, Mary realized it was the woman from the house about 20 meters away from Mary's house. The woman from before was secretly standing behind the fence, looking at Mary's house. Mary heard the woman say to the girl in the red dress, "Mistress left again, so your grandparents had to find you. Get in the car and I'll take you home quickly." The girl in the red dress smiled and climbed into the woman's car. Before leaving, that suspicious woman turned down and looked at Mary with sharp eyes. Mary and her son now went out together on the main road. At noon, Mary and Long arrived home. James' car was parked in the yard. Seeing people walking around in the house, because the villa is located on the mountain, the windows are designed quite wide. From outside you can see the living room and kitchen. Thinking her husband had returned, Mary pushed the door to open it, but the door was locked from the inside. Putting the bags down on the doorstep, Mary took the key to open the door and led Long into the house. With an annoyed look on her face, Mary muttered, "He went home first, so why did he lock the door? Just now I saw him walking around in the living room. You sit here. Let me see where your father is." Long sat on a chair in the living room. Mary tried to look through the kitchen but couldn't see anyone. She opened the bedroom door and saw no one, nor did Long's room. Mary called out, "James, where are you?" There was no answer from the whole house. Mary ran back to open the shoe cabinet, and James's shoes were still there. So where did James go? Looking at Long, who was still sitting in the living room, Mary told her child, "Please sit here." Mom went upstairs to see if Dad was up there. At that moment, there was a strange noise upstairs. Knock. 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 The noise sounded like someone was hammering a nail into the wall. At the sound of the hammer, Mary climbed the stairs still calling, "James, are you upstairs?" No one answered, only the sound of the hammer getting closer and closer. Up to the second floor, the sound of hammers hitting the wall became clearer. Knock. 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 The knocking sound came from the room, where last night Mary's mother rushed down in the middle of the night to say that in that room next to hers, someone was banging on the wall with a hammer. The room door is closed. Standing outside, Mary heard the sound clearly. Knock. Knock. Is coming from inside this very room. Her mouth still calls her husband's name. James. Mary trembled, grabbed the door handle, and gently turned it. The door was unlocked. Opening it slightly, Mary saw a dark shadow cast from the wall. It was tapping on the wall with harsh sounds. Opening the door to the room, Mary was startled. Mary's beloved husband was standing on a chair, nailed to the wall to hang a picture embroidered with a field of sunflowers. Mary's husband was wearing headphones, hammering a nail in his hand, and dancing his feet to the music. Seeing his wife open the door, he took off his headphones, turned around, and grinned. James pointed at the embroidered picture. "You're back. Doesn't it look beautiful? Just now, when I was driving our parents to the airport, I saw a shop that sold beautiful embroidery paintings, so I bought 3 paintings. The next room is also embroidered paintings with flowers, but it's roses. In this room it's sunflowers. As for our room, I put another picture." Mary refused to wait until her husband finished speaking. She angrily said loudly, "You scared me to death. When I called your name in the house, you didn't answer. Besides that, he was still hammering nails hard. Just now I thought there was a ghost in here, too. Last night, Mom heard the sound of a hammer. Now you're holding the hammer and hammering nails. You want to scare me to death." James was surprised because he didn't understand what happened. "Well, I was wearing headphones so I couldn't hear you calling. But you're also strange. Why is there any ghost here? We live in this house and you're still afraid of crap. You've been haunted by Mom's story last night." The couple was arguing when downstairs their son was crying loudly. Mary quickly ran down. I'm here, what's wrong?" The boy pointed to the corner of the house and cried. "Mom, she keeps teasing me. She threatens me." Mary looked in the direction of Long's hand and pointed at the TV screen. It was showing a cartoon, with several people disguised as bad people teasing the baby. Mary patted her son's cheek and laughed. Where? That which dares to tease you. Don't worry, she will be chased away by the prince now. See, the prince has arrived." The little boy hugged his mother and cried loudly. "She's teasing me again. Daddy." She couldn't comfort her child, so Mary carried Long into the room and didn't let him watch those violent cartoons anymore. No one knew that when Mary carried her child out of the living room, the TV screen automatically turned off and went dark. The corner of the house, where Long had just pointed to, for his mother, that someone was teasing him. The ornamental plants there swayed slightly, even though there was no little wind in the house. James is still upstairs, finishing up the unfinished work of hanging paintings. Mary was holding Long, comforting him from crying, in the room. But in the kitchen, the sound of water being poured into the sink, the sound of knives and chopping boards, and the sound of pots and pans hitting each other are still continuously resounding. Mary in the room called out, "Just leave it there, I'll go cook lunch when the baby stops crying." Everything became silent, the windows and doors were closed and the curtains were drawn because it was quite sunny at noon. But the light breeze seemed like someone was moving back and forth in the house, causing the curtain to gently move, causing the leaves of the ornamental plants to flutter slightly. The house emitted strange sounds, but no one knew.